Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are back on the first dev server for update Ixwa Strike, and now we're having a look at a new Swedish ground vehicle. This is the IKV 91105, and it's going to come in at rank 6, battle rating 8.3. Now this vehicle actually comes after the Ush, the 405, and also its brother, the IKV 91, which has a smaller gun than it. It's very similar to the IKV 91, at least in my opinion when it comes to playstyle, but does have a pretty cool set of different mechanics on it. When it comes to the armor profile, the armor is terrible. It is a vehicle which doesn't have a lot going for it. It has a lower plate of 20mm, upper of 12, and then the turret itself is also 12. So you're going to be able to hull break this thing pretty much with anything. One of the biggest issues I ran into while using the standard IKV 91 was artillery. Artillery annihilates these things pretty badly. On the side you do have some structural steel plates of 4mm, but then under it you have 8mm of extra armor. This is not going to do anything, you know, it's not enough to actually stop anything, and the 12mm is all the way around when it comes to the turret. The back is 8mm, so even weaker. Enjoy getting 50 cal to death, and on the top as well, 12 and 8mm, so CAS will tear you apart. When you have a vehicle and the strongest armor on it is the gun, you know you don't have any armor, and that is what the IKV 91105 has. Along with the armor though, it does have a very powerful gun for 8.3. This is the 105mm Bofors gun. It is two-plane stabilized, and also it has access to a secondary set of machine guns, a coaxial 8mm, and also a top 8mm, which hopefully will be useful against some CAS elements. But the 105mm Bofors gun does have some pretty nice rounds that is attached to it. So you do get a standard APDS round. A lot of people would look down on this, but understand that APDS over a certain caliber got buffed pretty severely last year, and now the 105mm APDS slaps. It's a really, really good round. It has a HESH shell, don't bother. It also has a HE shell, don't bother ×2. It has a smoke shell, don't bother ×3, but it does get a rank 4 APFSDS. APFSDS, which pens 337, 284, 195. This is going to be good enough to go through pretty much anything that you're going to fight around these BRs. There isn't too many vehicles with any composite armor around these BRs, so you know you won't have to worry too much about not going through them. Maybe you'll get some weird ricochets, but that's pretty much about it. It does get access to smoke grenades, which is really nice, and also the airstrike and the improved optics modifications. This means that it will be able to scout. This is very important for light vehicles, just because it means if you do get fully up-tiered, or you're in a situation where you feel like you can't really do a lot, then you will be able to at least contribute to the team if you're not able to kill vehicles. So being able to scout is great. Artillery as well on top of that, laser rangefinder as well. That's one of the big strengths of the standard IKV 91. Having a laser rangefinder at the lower BR with heat FS works really well. The laser is a little bit less useful on the IKV 91105 just because you have this APFSDS, which will travel at 1455, but it doesn't hurt to have it, and also it reduces the cost of the other modifications, which are much more useful, e.g. smoke for repositioning, engine for being able to move, and also artillery to be able to spot alongside of your scouting. And that is always, you know, nice to have on this vehicle. The next part of it is the engine itself. So this is an 18.7 ton machine, and it only has a 360 horsepower engine. So that's a little bit rough, not the best in the business, but it does mean it can go a max speed of 65 kilometers an hour, and it also can go 11 backwards, which is better than at least some of its counterparts when it comes to the game. The ammunition is also stored in a bit of a weird place. The first stage is just right next to the loader here, and just very easy to shoot from the front, but understand if you're getting penned anyway, you're going to die, so it doesn't really matter where the ammo is. The only thing this really matters against is stuff such as low caliber autocannons like the 25mm or the 30, where it'll be able to hit this very, very easily. But at that point you're normally dead anyway, so it doesn't really matter at all. Sweden at 8.3 already has a very strong lineup as well. The STR-V104, the STR-V103C. On top of this, you can run this if you're a masochist. And also, when it comes to the planes, you do have some supporting casts now with stuff like the Saab 105G, if you want to bring this along, and then also the J29s, if you feel like bringing them along. So the 8.3 lineup for the Swedish has really risen recently, which has been a very promising thing. Another thing is this 105 has a ridiculous reload rate, and it's not even an autoloader. So the vehicle itself, as you can see, mine is at a 4.7 second reload, which seems very high for this standard machine, and it can actually go down to 4 seconds. So you can out-reload even certain autoloaders, which you're going to find around the battlefield. And with a two-plane stabilizer, that is going to be very meaty indeed. Looking at the customization options for the IKV 91105, you obviously have the standard green camo, and then also all of the other beautiful Swedish camos that are available to it, which happen to be, you know, on a lot of these late tier Swedish vehicles. With this IKV 91, you will be able to unlock some pretty nice camos. I've always enjoyed the tricolor winter camo personally, just because of the contrast between the different colors of it. So when it comes to this machine, what are we looking for? Well, we're looking for a machine which gives us a nice view into a light vehicle with a lot of punch. Not every light vehicle has to be a passive scout. A lot of light vehicles do become very aggressive tank killers very quickly, especially if you get specific rounds. And this is one of those. This is one of those vehicles that is going to come in and just screw you up and do a ton of damage to everything that you love. And with the reload it has, with the mobility that it has, which isn't the best for a light tank, but good enough, you know, good enough, especially the 8.3 BR, where you're still looking into, you know, having a lot of other machines such as MBTs like the T55AM around there. You will be able to move around with the stabilizer, with this OK turret rotation with it, and also one of the things that is always overlooked, the optics, which are really good for this machine. You can hear the kind of weak roar of the engine. It sounds like a lawnmower back there, but it will get you to point A, from point A to point B if you want to, and you can just use your optics to just pick apart all of the enemies that you find. The smokes as well, they do drop in sets of 4, so you do get 3 sets of smokes, which is very important, especially since a lot of vehicles only get 2 sets of smoke. So it gives you a little bit of advantage in that regard, and it means if you're in a position scouting and you need to get away from it, or if you see a plane coming in, it's an easy way to be able to re-maneuver and put yourself in a better place. So for me at least, that's great. It's one of those things which is kind of overlooked, and I feel like smoke is definitely underutilized a lot of the time when it comes to War Thunder, and hopefully in the future it just gets used more and more and more and more. One of the things that this thing is missing is thermals, but I feel like if it did have thermals, it would be a higher BR, and therefore not as enjoyable to play, because then its round wouldn't be as good, and also you run into way more machines that do have thermals, and they will be able to see you pretty easily around the place. And I feel like the place where it's at right now, especially with the IKV weirdly going down in BR when it did, I think is completely fine. Like the round's going to do a ton, the reload is going to really support it incredibly well. The only thing that this is really struggling for is survivability. And hopefully the lower profile will mean that you can pop up from an area, you know, shoot people with your 10 degrees of gun depression, pop back down, and then be completely fine. So you'll pop, shoot back, and just keep doing that over and over again, and then be able to reposition with the smoke, and you should be in a great position with this. The Swedish ground tech tree is a little bit of a slog when it comes to rank 1, 2, and 3. Rank 1 and 2, the vehicles only get good when you get the APDS on them, so it can feel like a lot of the time when you're playing them, it's a little bit of a rough time. But then when you get to rank 3, you start getting stuff like the PVKV2, which is very fun, but you don't really get a proper lineup. At rank 4, then you start getting these machines which work together well. At rank 5, you get a decent lineup, and then at rank 6, it starts becoming a powerhouse. And Sweden right now has one of the best top BR or top ranking lineups in the game, with the SDRV 122s, the 121s, all of the support AFVs, also the support AAs as well. And in order to get there, if you have to play this thing and have a bit of fun in it, at least, you know, you'll be having a good experience along the way, because this thing isn't going to do you wrong. You know, it's going to be pretty, you know, combat effective, even stock, and it's not really going to gain too much apart from the APF SDS. The APDS is still going to be fine to do it, and you know for a fact that the end goal, which is getting to top tier, is going to be worth it as well, because it is so good. I'm happy that this thing is A3, so it fits in the lineup, alongside everything else. It's going to be great to play. I'm looking forward to it already. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Conte Baraka, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Hosest Kishot, Hans, Barine, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.